morning or afternoon to everyone joining us today. Thank you for joining. We're delighted to be sharing a few minutes, about a half hour, 45 minutes of our time today to talk about how you can tackle top food safety and quality management challenges with SafetyChain. My name is Jill Bender. I'm the VP of Marketing. Delighted to be with you today. Joining me also, I have Eric Hansen, our Director of Technical Solutions. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Hi, everybody.
We're hoping to make today a very interactive session. We'll be taking you through just a little bit about some of the challenges and barriers that food safety and quality operations are typically seeing out there. A few approaches for tackling those. I'm super excited to just give you a very high-level overview of our solution. We'll be doing a live demo, and most importantly, taking your questions. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping. If you have any technical issues, you should be hearing the audio clearly, but you can also call in. A conference call number is provided in the WebEx platform. The recording link and slides are always sent. Should get those first thing on Monday. We hope to have questions answered, and any questions you have, go ahead and type them in. We'll get to those towards the end of the session. And most importantly, as always, for your privacy, you'll only see yourself online. But as always, very excited and delighted with the audience that has joined us today. So thank you for taking the time to join us. So with that, Eric, let's go ahead and get started.
All right.
So when we talk about food safety and quality, often there's messages out there that, risk, compliance, all the other components of it. But when it really comes down to it, Eric, what is food safety and quality's goal?
Well, you have to deliver a safe quality product, and you have to do it at the appropriate margin. We need to be an ongoing concern.
So, we always like to kick off this way because, ultimately there's a lot to share, but when it really comes down to it, and, we recognize this, without saying obvious here, this is the goal. But there's certainly challenges to meeting those goals. We liken it to sort of the perfect storm every day. Eric is out there working with our customers and prospects alike. Share with us, Eric, what are some of the components that make the FSQA's job certainly more challenging?
Well, it's amazing in this field how you have so many different stakeholders and so many different audiences you need to please. You have all of the customers and customer requirements and customer audits that need to be met. You have the GFSI standards that may need to be met. These were supposed to ideally replace customer requirements, but I keep hearing over and over again from customers and prospects that it's become yet another set of requirements that has to be faced. There's the regulatory environment, the FDA, the USDA, changing regulations, FSMA now being implemented, et cetera. You have supplier management and increasing complex and international supply chains, subject now to increasing regulation, and you have just the myriad of inspections, inquiries, and audits that you have to face as a food producer.
And that is an everyday challenge, all these pieces, getting back to, of course, aligning with what your goal is. Along with those challenges, certainly, there's those overriding pressures. I know we can all relate to this being very entrenched in the industry, sort of the daily headlines. I know certainly we all get alerts around here, and it's something I'm sure everyone online with us does. And certainly the food safety and the repercussions to the company. And then certainly when we talk about the proverbial corner office, really be able to meet your key performance indicators and, ultimately really have control in reducing cost to your quality. So, Eric, talk to us sort of about, with these pressures, what are the sort of the key components that need to take place in order to manage those?
Well, we need to reduce our risks. Obviously, we need to control our costs, and that often involves the very difficult challenge of operating more efficiently in a very dynamic and very rapidly growing environment. And obviously, that requires us all to improve our performance, not just once, but over time, continuously improving our performance.
Again, lots of pressures, but when it ultimately comes down to it, and from the company, what that ultimately means is?
We need to protect our brand. It's our responsibility as professionals.
So with that, we often talk about the operations and really having an intricate knowledge of your job and the operations and the fact that it is complex.
It is complex. We are dealing with so many different functional areas. Are you operating with suppliers? Are you receiving product? Are you the HACCP program coordinator? We need to make sure that the food we produce is safe. Absolutely. Is the environment sanitary? Are we meeting our quality requirements, the quality requirements potentially of many different customers with many different needs? many more things. And this is not just a flat area, is it? No. Every one of these is going to have specifications, documents they require, data that has to be gathered, different validation requirements, tasks that have to be done by certain people at certain times. All of it has to be overseen, and all of the data has to be captured in reports, both to share the information and to analyze it for continuous improvement. So many requirements, multiple dimensions, no breaks, 24/7, 365.
No breaks indeed.
So, and just to make it all, better, or it's not getting easier. It's getting more complex. There's additional complexities in the supply chain. There's additional regulatory requirements. There's new customer requirements. There's new GFSI compliance requirements all the time.
So I think that the key thing here, too, adding to the complex environment, as obviously, is that the food safety and quality operations we know does not happen in an office. If it did, it would certainly make lives a lot easier, right?
That's for sure. This doesn't happen from the office. It doesn't happen from the desk. You need to support these operations from the field to the loading dock, to the in-transit vehicles, to the production facilities as it goes out the door, and as you're collecting feedback from your customers. So it's ubiquitous. It's all over all the time.
And again, preaching to the choir here, certainly.
That's right.
So really, when we think about this, what is the best way to execute a robust program in such a complex, moving, pressure-driven environment? We talk a lot about sort of the 4 steps. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, so this is kind of 4 steps really based on the Deming model initially, but it starts with program execution, and of course that starts with defining and documenting your programs. Then the next step is identifying and managing deviations or deficiencies in your execution against those programs and collecting all of that information. The act of preparing that documentation, preparing those programs and processes, and tracking your performance and your execution leads you to inquiry and audit readiness, provided that the data is in an accessible format. Finally, once that data is in an accessible format, it can be sliced and diced and analyzed, and you can learn a great deal about your business that'll help you get a grip on things and improve going forward. So in a well-working process, an effective process, your program execution, you're going to have everything current. Everything will be complete, accurate, and well documented. As we begin to identify and manage issues, we'll find that managing these issues at the earliest point possible is dramatically going to improve our responsiveness and reduce our costs and liabilities. Classic examples there are your old metal detector or your CCPs. Has a check been missed? You have to hold and perhaps re-inspect everything since the last good check. The earlier you know, the more seconds you save. Each second there has dollars associated with it. Finally, or not finally, but as we look at inquiry and audit readiness, you need to make sure you are prepared for any inquiries, prepare for any audits, and that is the key to passing. Finally, when you have that information in that accessible repository, you're able to look it over, you're able to identify areas, you're able to implement change, and then as the loop goes around again, you're able to verify that that change has been effective and takes the next steps.
And again, it's the concept, this continuous cycle. Given the complexities, this is ultimately what it comes down to, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what are some of the barriers to success that we're seeing?
Well, the food industry is so manual still. People have, the thing that strikes you as you go around from facility to facility is just the sheer magnitude and amount of paper and paper forms and pens and pencils and clipboards. This is time-consuming, manual entry that's error-prone. It's very difficult to ensure you have the right versions of the right forms distributed to the right places, so there's a real risk of outdated forms, which means outdated processes out there. Time and resources are a major problem, especially when you're using all of this paper. That is a very inefficient way to do it. And it's a very overly flexible way to do it. Paper does not have the control over the user and the inputs that the users have the way that systems, more sophisticated systems and mobile devices can have. And then there's also the inability to catch that needle in the haystack. You have to go look for it. Wouldn't it be nice if that needle in the haystack said, hey, I'm over here, come find me. Finally, there's records everywhere, right? And I've seen this. I've been in a poultry facility where they told me they have to keep records for so long. They told me if they could get rid of their paper, get everything stored electronically, they could add a new production line. That seems like a better use of the space, frankly. But what this really adds up to, not only is the information slow and difficult to access, but people have rich programs in place. They are capturing a ton of information. So we have this phrase, they're data rich. They have the data, but it's all on different pieces of paper in different filing cabinets. It's extremely difficult to collate into any useful format, any useful manner, and the result is they've collected all this data, but they're still information poor. It's very difficult to unlock that data that's been captured into actionable information.
So we've talked a little bit here, certainly about the operations and what food safety and quality and you and your peers are facing every day, the complexities, the perfect storm, you know, the keys to really, you know, handling a robust program and some of the barriers. So we always ask, you know, what if you could, you know, ensure program execution and compliance every day? More effectively reduce the risk and control the cost before they become larger problems. Again, going back to what Eric was saying, the needle in the haystack, or, you know, managing more by exception. Be ready 24/7 to respond to inquiries, inspections, and audits. We have certainly worked with lots of different customers. You know, when you think about the difference of chasing down documents and stressing the night before about not having all your ducks in a row, and having that sort of pressure go away because you know it's taken care of. And then lastly, most importantly, as the cycle continues, is having that data that you already have be actually more actionable so you can identify trends and impact improvements on performance. And certainly you can with SafetyChain, and we're really excited to share that with you today. You know, our key components of our solution really is predicated around program compliance and making that a more effective, efficient manner every single day for you, which ultimately helps you reduce your risk and control your costs. You know, the concept, again, of being ready on demand, logging in 24/7 whenever an inspection and inquiry or certainly audit is coming through your door. And then certainly, and the most important part is being able to improve performance. So Eric, why don't you talk a little bit about what SafetyChain is all about? You know, we have sort of three components here if you want to share with us.
Yeah, so kind of the overweening concept here is that we want to support safety and compliance and efficient operations across the entire food chain, across your entire operation, beginning with supplier compliance, where we are onboarding and maintaining the currency of your suppliers and your supplier relationships by capturing all of their documentation, making sure it remains current, communicating to them any new requirements, and capturing their performance, again, providing those documentation, et cetera. Then the gap to food safety and supplier compliance there is on receiving. We'll help you with receiving inspections. Once the product is in the facility, we want to help you ensure under the food safety management rubric now that your facilities are sanitary, that they are prepared for operation. You've met all of your pre-operational requirements. Your HACCP programs are well documented and well executed. This all falls under the safety. Then we get into the quality. Are you meeting the needs of your customers in terms of quality? We help you test against those specifications, track that information over time, and determine where you can improve and how you can gain margin, frankly, what is important and what is not important. Then as we're capturing all of this information, including documentation about what the processes should be, we have it arranged in a very nice repository that helps you prepare for audits, and present for audits. And in fact, you can use our applications to directly support audits of your suppliers or audits of your own operations done internally. We now offer also additional modules for operational effectiveness, where we are doing real-time tracking of clean-in-place processes and material loss as it goes through your system. Those are kind of the functional areas we play in. Underlying all of those is this concept of smart data collection. We know what data needs to be collected when, and we will know what each element of those data points collected needs to be, what it should mean, and who needs to do what about it. You'll see this translates most literally or most directly into our mobile device, where we're actually controlling when, where, and how data is captured on the floor. That collected data will roll up to various programs. Often a single piece of data can be relevant to multiple programs. And we will show you how that kind of many-to-many view into data supports the management of your programs. So you can say, how are we doing on my preventive controls for human foods? How am I doing on my SQF program? How am I doing on my various customer requirement programs? You can have that high-level view into your operations.
And really that sort of comes down to sort of visibility, right?
Comes down to visibility, right. And control.
And something I'd like to note too, when we talk about sort of the right technology to drive performance, we have a lot of customers that are using our complete suite of applications. We have customers that say, you know what, we really need help in supplier compliance, or just in, audit management of our suppliers, because I'm tired of flying, 30 days out of 30 days each month auditing suppliers and so forth. So the way that our technology is designed is that, that the core premise of the platform, the program management component Eric talked about, combined with smart data collection with the solutions that make sense for your business. But ultimately what that comes down to is when you have your solution modules, you're ensuring your compliance component. With the smart data collection, you're catching your issues earlier, you're enabling that. And then with this centralized platform, it's providing that visibility, that audit and inquiry readiness we talked about, and really the opportunity for your data to be actionable and so forth. So with that, we're going to go ahead and dive in, Eric. What do you think on our demo, and give the audience here a little taste for what we do? Again, the goal here is to just give you a very high-level overview of the different modules in action, with the overall premise that each of these areas, it's all about program execution. It's about that smart data capture and analysis and accessible records and the actionable data. So with that, Eric, I'm going to pass the seat over to you, and let's get going on the high-level demo here. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So let's see some stuff.
And again, as Eric switches out of here, it'll take us into a live view of the application, and then we'll take questions at the end.
Thanks, Jill. So what we're looking at is a browser. SafetyChain's solution is a software as a service solution. Everything is delivered entirely over the web, so there's no software for you to install or any servers for you to host. You'll go to a dedicated URL and log in with the username and password. All of the data that will be presented to you on that upon login was controlled by a role associated with your user, and all of the functionality available to you is also controlled by a role associated with the user. What we're looking at now is what we call the FSQA Dashboard. This is where we organize all of your what we call resources. So in this FSQA world, the things we are primarily concerned about, or the entities we're concerned about, are our customers, our equipment, our items, and that includes everything from raw material to in-process to finished product, and other things we're consuming and using like chemicals and packaging, anything that's passing through our system. And finally, suppliers. We'll start with a look at our suppliers. So I've got details on all of my suppliers loaded into this list and available to me to browse. We create for you, this is all configurable, kind of a hierarchy of categories that will represent your business. The idea is that your operators this should be very familiar to them, and they should know where to go to find anything pretty intuitively. In this list, I have highlighted some elements of the supplier records that I want presented at this top level. So if I want to, for example, filter on any of these, I can filter on my risk level and see everybody who's high risk, see everybody who's low risk. I can access everybody who's perhaps of unknown GFSI certification by country, whatever it happens to be, approval status. I can click into any of these suppliers, and I can see that what items I am receiving from them. So for Alpha Pro, I can see these are the items that I am procuring from them. And if, for example, I'm having an issue with the skimmed milk powder I'm receiving from Alpha Pro, I can click into the skimmed milk powder, and I can see who my other supplier options are. So that's kind of at a high level functionality available out of the list. And I want to convey here that we've taken a lot of information now that people have in different systems, different files, and we've put it into one place and brought it to your fingertips. At the next step, we are collecting for these suppliers for you, from these suppliers, all of the documentation that you would require. So, for example, if I look into Kelly Ingredients, I can see I've got all of these documents. I've got their allergen statements, food safety plans, pesticide statements, GFSI certification. We have administrative tools where you can define for any population of suppliers and for any specific item what your documentation requirements are. And those documentation requirements are communicated to the supplier via a portal where they can log in and complete those requirements. The example would be if for my ingredient providers, I need them to provide an allergen statement. So I would create that requirement. It would go out to any ingredient provider. They could go in, complete that task, which would consist of uploading the allergen statement to me. Then I would get the allergen statement, and it would be a managed document in my platform. Once it becomes managed, we're tracking the expiration date. That's what these dots are indicating. A yellow dot is showing a document that expires within 30 days. And we're actually going to kind of automate the process of keeping these current, subject to our supplier compliance program requirements. So in this case, 30 days in advance of expiration, I'm going to send a notification to the supplier with the new task that says your document is expiring. Please update the document. They can complete that task and update the document themselves. So this becomes a hands-off process for you, keeping the documents current. So these are documents that we have collected. We're also going to highlight their progress in completing the requirements we've laid out for them. So this is now an in-process supplier. I have specified to them what all the requirements I have that I need from them, and I am now looking at their status as they progress through meeting those requirements. I can see that they have 3 overdue tasks, and this can translate to the status, their active status in my system. At a glance, I have this little graphic that's showing me what's current, what's expired, what's been started, and what has not been started. The idea is we're giving you this level of visibility and control over your suppliers, bringing it to your fingertips. Once we've brought these suppliers on, we've collected their documents, we've collected their questionnaires, received their acknowledgments, and we are now beginning to receive product, then we are looking at records. So if we're receiving product, I can look now at, I'll look at the top level of suppliers, and now I'll be looking at all of the records of any activity I've conducted with these suppliers. And I can scroll down and I can see I've got a failed receiving inspection here, for example. This is an inspection that would have been conducted at the receiving dock on a mobile device. You'll see some other examples of this. We can see user time and date stamped, so these are auditable records. I can scroll down and see exactly what the issue was. A broken and splintered pallet was discovered at unload, so I can open up, I can see there's an image associated. I can open the image and see what exactly the inspector saw. So there's my broken pallet, and I can see, sure enough, there's splinters, there's nails sticking out, there's plenty of potential hazard for the introduction of foreign material, for tears in packaging, etc. So I can follow up and see exactly what was done with this record as well. So I can open up the record history, and I can see that it was submitted this date and time, and shortly thereafter, the supervisor confirmed that the outer packaging was intact and unpunctured by a secondary inspection. They accepted the product, but we have forwarded the issue to procurement. We are going to pursue a chargeback, or at least make sure this is noted against the supplier's performance. Just a simple example about how we collect issue, basically that identifies an incident, and then our tools offer you the help to make sure that incident is resolved and documented. As we all know, if it's not documented, it's not done. So that's an example of the supplier side and supplier compliance. We've collected documents, we've received products, we've ensured that our suppliers are meeting our requirements. Let's take a look at the item side now. Let's take a look now, I should say, at the pre-operational food safety management kind of programs. So if I'm looking now at my equipment, or perhaps I'll bring up my mobile device here, and what you're looking at is this is a 7-inch Android tablet. This is the SafetyChain mobile application down here in the lower left, and you can get that from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Now we're looking at the Forms module of the SafetyChain application. So if I am about to begin production in my facility, and I'm a supervisor in charge of ensuring we're meeting all of our sanitation requirements, all of our sanitation program requirements have been met prior to production, I can do a pre-operational inspection. So all of these forms you're going to see are entirely configurable, so you're looking really at nothing but examples, but I'm going to note that if I inspected conveyor 1, the conveyor 1 area, and just to keep this very simple and to not slow the operator down, the supervisor down, I can simply indicate that the area is clean and sanitary. I verify it's clean and sanitary. If I submit now, I'm going to generate an auditable record, user time and date stamped. I will see by the credential of the user if they're qualified to make this determination. And this will be a record accessible by any supervisor, manager, or auditor. If, however, there's a deficient sanitation condition discovered, the form will expand. And now I can indicate if it's a product contact area. If it's not, that's fine. I'll resolve it on one path. If it is, then I need the issue corrected before I can move on. So we'll say I've re-cleaned, re-inspected, and released. And I will indicate here that the issue is resolved. Now I can capture additional detail. I can capture a description of the deficiency. So we'll say it's product residue. And we are going to leverage the hardware on the tablet. I can actually even capture a photograph. So this is the view out my window here in San Rafael, California. I'll capture the photo, and now I'll have direct visual evidence of the issue that was discovered during my pre-operational inspection. This is very useful for training purposes, or you can capture a pre-condition and a post-condition, etc. But now there can be no question about what I saw. So I submit the form, and it goes up to the server now and becomes a record, just like we saw under the supplier. So now I have a record here that's going to tell me that I have conveyor 1, conveyor 2 submitted, received that pre-operational inspection, and it failed. So another example now, building it into a bigger program context, is if we're looking, for example, at let's look at a process driven by our HACCP program. So I'm going to look now at my portable measurement devices. And here under my portable measurement devices, I've got calipers, scales, thermometers, ATP detection devices. We'll look at thermometers. And I have a thermometer document here that is a standard operating procedure for using and calibrating thermometers. So I'm going to look and I can open up the document. This is a document that's under control in our system. So we are versioning the document, tracking who modified it last and when, and we're tracking the expiration date. Green means we're greater than 30 days from expiration. Just like we saw with the supplier, at 30 days it'll change yellow, and at expiration it'll change to red. We're also tracking the whole history of updates on this document, including approval type tasks. So here I assigned the document for review and it was approved, or actually it was assigned to me and I approved it. But all of that history is tracked here in the document history, and document administrators who have access to this interface, the history interface, can actually even access old versions of the document if you need to reference or roll back. This document then is linked into multiple contexts, often depending on the programs that this relates to or that this supports. So we access this document by going into equipment, portable measurement devices, thermometers. It's also linked to our preventive control for human food program because these are HACCP thermometers. So my operators who need to do the calibrations and use these thermometers access the document by this one intuitive path. My HACCP coordinators, my PCHF managers can access the document by this path. Their objective is going to be slightly different. They want to make sure that all of the documentation is current, complete, and correct and ready for audit. We can even take the next step and link this document into such detailed contexts as different clauses of different GFSI codes. So just by way of example, this particular document is linked to SQF, SQF Clause 2.4.6, non-conforming product or equipment, and Clause 2.4.2, food safety fundamentals. By managing your document linking this way, you're already going a long way to ensuring you're ready for a GFSI audit, or this becomes a template for you to follow to achieve that GFSI certification. So the next step we take once we have this document in here, so now we have our organizational commitment and our organizational process documented here. We've ensured that it's met the right approvals and it's published and it's current. The next step is to operationalize this process, and we do that through the use of the form. So we create a form, and we saw a submission of a form from mobile, but now we're going to see a submission of the form from the web. So I can now go and complete a form if I'm calibrating a thermometer. I'll declare my location. I have to do that because I'm a multi-location user, but if I was a single location user, that would be defaulted. I'm going to declare my thermometer type for thermocouple, and I'm going to declare my calibration method. If it's ice point, it's going to present the steps, the process for proper ice point calibration. If I am compliant, so if I'm within the acceptable range, I will submit, and again, I've generated that auditable record user time and date stamped. If I am not, if I'm out of the acceptable range, I now see I am presented with a correction. I have to complete that correction before I can move on, and I can, in fact, even push to my operators the acceptable corrections for them to take. So if the thermometer can be recalibrated, it needs to be recalibrated and retested, and we will say that as the operator we have done so, and I will submit. So again, now we see that that completed form becomes a record, accessible and reviewable. So here's all of the content that was captured in that check and all of the detail. And I actually am also, now I will receive an email notification on that completed thermometer calibration. I can see that there was a failed thermometer calibration, see who did it, when it was done, and I can follow the view link in the email notification to go directly into the detail of the record. So if we can imagine that I am the supervisor of this process, I would receive that email notification. I would see that the thermometer was recalibrated according to the manufacturer's instructions, and the operator declared it resolved. Well, it is my task now to verify that resolution, so I can say verified proper recalibration via retest. Now, these are very simple examples in the interest of time, but these can become quite complex. And this is also a little strange. In the interest of time, I didn't log in, log out. But you can see that we're capturing who did the original action and when, and we can see that the incident was acknowledged and signed off on by the supervisor. And that way, we make sure that any identified issues are addressed before they become a bigger problem. So those are some safety examples, sort of prerequisite program type of examples. We also get into the safety directly related to the processing of product, and this would be something more along the lines of CCP monitoring. So if I'm looking now at a specific product, and I can kind of get there by quickly typing in any product name, it'll take me there. Now I'm looking at my items, and I can see that this particular salad is something I prepare for sale through these different markets. This particular garden salad is comprised of these raw materials: red cabbage, carrots, iceberg lettuce, and I manufacture it at these locations. This particular garden salad has two key documents that govern its production. One is the finished product specification. The other is the HACCP plan. So I can open up the HACCP plan here, and I can scroll down. And if I'm going to be going into production and need to verify what needs to be done, I can see there's two CCPs that require constant monitoring. This is based on a real HACCP plan and a real HACCP process. So the document captures the critical control point. What is the hazard at that we're monitoring for at that control point? What are the critical limits? What is being monitored? How is it being monitored? How frequently? By who? What are the corrective actions? Etc. Our forms framework, I want to suggest, supports all of these elements. So if I am going to begin production of my salad, in this case, I may go back to my mobile device, and I will indicate that we're doing the garden salad or doing my CCPs, and I can pull up my sanitation solution check here, and I'm going to capture again my location, and I'm presented now with all the detail I need to complete my check. So these are notes and hints that come directly from the HACCP plan, and here I actually have linked the HACCP plan itself. If I need to get into that level of detail, the operator on the floor can actually pull through the plan documentation to check against it if they have any questions as they're undergoing the process. So if I am out of compliance, the form is going to tell me immediately. It's going to be enforcing the plan on the floor, and I'm going to be forced to enter a correction before I move on. If I'm compliant, that's great. I will be compliant, and I will pass, and I will submit. So there were two CCPs on this plan. One was that sanitation level check. The other was a metal detector check. So in this case, I will go complete the metal detector check. And again, I can pull through the HACCP plan should I need to refer to it. It's going to inform the operator what standard we're testing, 3.5 millimeter stainless bar. It needs to be passed through 3 times and have 3 consecutive detections in order to pass. So we'll pass, and we'll pass, and we'll submit. Recall, every time I'm doing this, I am generating that auditable record that can be monitored by the supervisor. Even more than that, actually, these forms can be assigned as tasks. And now if I'm the supervisor, I can see the tasks that are outstanding. And these tasks, even more than that, will generate notifications. So at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, this will trigger a notification that this task had been missed. So now we're proactively ensuring that our checks are done at the time they need to be done. And as they're done, again, we are collecting all of those records here, so we have record of that activity. The next step here is getting into the quality program. So this particular salad, I'm going to open up the product specification document, and it's going to give me now my quality expectations.
So I have a blend ratio. I need to make sure I have the right percentage of ingredients. I have cooling and handling requirements, and I have packaging quality attributes. Just in the interest of time, I'll highlight very quickly the blend ratio check, where we're capturing some valuable quality information. So here we're looking now at my garden salad quality checks. So I open up my blend ratio, and I'm going to indicate the percentage of iceberg. I'll indicate the percentage of carrots. I'll indicate the percentage of cabbage. As I'm doing this consistently, over time, I'm going to start gathering some very valuable information. Why am I always low on carrots during the first shift on Tuesday? Is there a margin impact, et cetera? This is information that is very difficult to get out of paper. And then finally, I want to highlight one element of the form here on the package quality attributes. We're going to be checking net weights. And one of the things I just hate to see when I go into facilities is you will so often see the operators capturing and measuring net weights. So they'll go through they'll take the item, they'll put it on the scale, they'll write down the result, they'll go to the calculator, they'll calculate the average. It is such an inefficient process, such an important metric. When you're using a mobile device, we'll calculate the net average for you. You don't have all of that rework. The whole process is much more robust, much less error-prone, and much faster. So that's a quality check. Again, we're capturing all of that information as we go down the line, and we're rolling this information up into usable views that will prompt the supervisor to action. So now I'm looking at my items that are flowing through my facility, and for this time frame that I've selected, I can see I'm 89% compliant, 11% non-compliant. I can click into my non-compliant items and review any outstanding issues. I can see any corrections that are unresolved that require my action. I can see anything that's resolved, and I can get in and address anything at that very detailed level. As all of this is going on, of course, we're capturing all of this data, and we can carve it up for you in very interesting ways that give you a lot of insight into your business. Finally, as we prepare sort of for a pre-shipment review example or something, I can have verified now all of my activity, and I can sign off as the supervisor. So I will sign off that everything has been completed, everything is compliant, and we've met all of our requirements. So that's an example of how we're supporting you from the supplier relationship, collecting your documents, defining your requirements. This is often what we mean by your program, define and document your requirements. And then we're tracking all of the execution against those requirements to make sure you are meeting everything you said you would do, and we tie it all together in this one very efficient and easy to use FSQA dashboard. So when an auditor comes or when your supervisor comes and says, I need to see that document, I need to see that form, I need to see how you're performing on your tasks, I need to see the sanitation records from last Tuesday, it's all at your fingertips. So hopefully we've conveyed that to you, and I can see Jill's eager to stop me before I keep you here all day. So sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Eric. You know, it's interesting we talk about our platform. Again, the concept here is that we have, you know, different modules that really do help drive your business. So Eric did a great job of really talking through the different capabilities. And again, we have customers that might just use us for the food safety realm, whether it's pre-sanitation, HACCP checks, and so forth, or perhaps supplier compliance and so forth. So the goal really was to show you the robust flexibility of our system, but also more importantly is, you know, the concept that it really is giving you visibility to drive performance. Something I do always like to point out in this piece here is that, you know, while we have a comprehensive solution, robust, you know, our modules and so forth, really the goal here is to help with your performance. You know, we have a deep industry expertise here at SafetyChain and working with our customers, certainly. And then also that we are full service. So this isn't an application that you just turn on and go. It is, we work hand in hand in partnership to your success in getting the most out of SafetyChain. Go ahead and, you know, just like to always highlight that we do work with customers throughout the supply chain, you know, whether it's on the farm in pre-harvest inspections or in a retail manufacturing environment or on the retail environment. So we sort of talked a little bit about sort of the scenarios that go through that. But again, when it really comes down to it, what is your goal? The goal is to help, you know, is to deliver a safe, quality product. And in order to be able to do that efficiently and effectively, it's about having that program visibility. It's about ensuring program execution, having the right data at the right time in order to catch and identify and manage issues at the earliest point possible. And it really is then about that sort of continuous cycle of identifying trends and areas and actually implementing those areas for your ongoing performance and continuous improvement initiatives. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take us out of full screen in the interest of time here and would like to sort of open it up the floor. We've had a couple questions that have come in already, and if you could look in your also on the WebEx platform, go ahead and put those in there. But we've received a few chats, and I think one I just sort of addressed, but Eric will go ahead and put that out there. From a implementation standpoint, you know, I just sort of talked about that is, again, we're not a tool set you just turn on. We are in there with Partner to Success in a very phased approach and making it more manageable. But if you want to address that a little bit.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We roll out with what we call a full service model. So our delivery personnel will work very closely with you, hands-on keyboard, doing a lot of the configuration and validation themselves, making sure we're setting up everything to support your programs in the best possible way. And we don't go away. We stay your process. We stay your partner. We're in this with you for the long run, so you can always pick up the phone, call us for any training, retraining, any configuration changes, etc. We do not charge for that kind of thing. So.
Right, so full transparency on sort of the pricing, sort of the ongoing relationship. Great, and another question that came in is just in reference to, well, was specific around supplier compliance and talking about as far as managing the suppliers. We looked at the partner portal and as far as giving them access to that. The question is, do suppliers have to pay for that access?
No, we don't charge suppliers for that access. We really want to eliminate any hurdles for adoption. We've made it as simple as possible for the suppliers. We like to think it actually is a benefit to them to use the system, and we don't want to place any hurdle in the way of their adopting the system, like making them pay for it.
Great, thanks, Eric. Another question just came in, and we didn't have time today to talk about sort of, we touched on some audit management as far as actually managing audits and inquiries, but also if we could just touch base on is from a managing your own audits, right? We've talked about this a lot, and a lot of our customers were, you know, crisscrossing across the country or up and down, you know, the eastern seaboard, if you will. One particular customer I was thinking of, you know, having to go on site and perform audits and get that program visibility. But if you just talk about that for how people are using our tool from an audit management standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do want to use our tool to crisscross the country and audit your suppliers or audit your facilities, you certainly can. And there's great value in that because we'll be ensuring that you're using the same audit at your different facilities and to make sure that they're evaluated similarly. So our audits are available on the mobile or on the web like you saw elsewhere. They support very sophisticated scoring functions, so you can do all of the familiar audit steps. We'll help you identify issues that require corrective actions and make sure that those are resolved, and then roll it all up into a single presentation of the record that's always accessible to the corporation wherever the audit came from.
Okay, great. And then just sort of moving on, there was one question in regards to our clean-in process solution. We didn't touch base on that today. We just had a solution demo webinar a couple weeks ago. We're happy to provide that on-demand cast to that, but again, that is part of our optimization of the clean-in place process and so forth. And with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's session. I know that we certainly could dive in a lot deeper with anyone that has more specific questions to our product. I know a few have come in, and we'll take those offline. But I think more importantly is just understanding, is SafetyChain right for you? Well, the only way to find out is let's talk. We will have a post-event form that pops up. Feel free if you'd like to have us reach out to you to talk a little bit more about what your needs are and how areas and gaps in which you see that we might be able to help. Certainly we can dive into a more deeper demo, but more importantly, it's just really understanding the return on investment. Recognizing that when you take on a new project like this, change management and navigating through that, but really understanding your return and really going through that with you, we could paint the picture, if you will, from the ROI standpoint and help you build that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's session. We are always actively out there. For those that are not aware of our monthly FSMA Fridays with Dr. David Atchison and the Atchison Group, we host those regularly once a month. It's become quite the FSMA Fridays crowd, we call it, and we've been doing it for a few years now, but just a great monthly half-hour update on what's going on with all things FSMA and allowing opportunities to ask questions specific to your scenarios. We are out there quite a bit at shows. So we just came back from the SQF show. I see a few people online with us today that were there. Thank you for joining us. The next show we'll be at is the Food Safety Consortium, so look forward to that. And then it looks like our Q1 schedule will be quite busy too as far as events, so look forward to seeing people out there. And then certainly we invite you to stay up to date with SafetyChain. We regularly post information on LinkedIn, YouTube, we have a blog, and so forth. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time today to learn a little bit about how we can help you tackle your toughest issues. Thank you, Eric, as always.
Thank you, Jill.
Diving in. I know Eric loves to really dive into a lot of our product functionality and stuff, so that was great sharing that. And again, any questions that we didn't address today, we will certainly take offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.